Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football Podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and I'm now joined by Seb Stafford-Bloor.
Hello, Joe.
Hello, JJ Bull the Bullet.
Yes.
That's right. Lots to talk about today. Quick few notes at the beginning before we start. If you're watching us on YouTube today, you'll notice that you're not actually watching us, and that is because of a technical malfunction. We are here, you can hear us, but you can't see us.
For the benefit of the listener, Joe is still looking at the camera as though it's on.
Yes, I don't know why I'm doing that, but I am doing it as I speak now. Anyway, there's that out of the way. Things we discuss on today's podcast. Chelsea, Newcastle, Manchester United and Tottenham, we do that. Everton flirting with relegation, we talk about them, of course. Arsenal having another good game, having a great end of the season. The fallout at PSG after they lost to Real Madrid in the Champions League, and looking forward to the Champions League in Tuesday and Wednesday as well. First 20 minutes is not hugely football-y. If you can't be bothered hearing about stuff like that, then do just skip forward.
Good chat, though.
Good chat.
Yeah,
But otherwise,
not for everybody.
I enjoyed it.
Me too.
Not for everyone.
No.
It's fine. And other than that, what else is fine? The Athletic, like a fine wine or cheese that just gets better with time. And the first bit of time is free. That's a 30-day free time by visiting theathletic.com/Tifo, theathletic.com/Tifo. Get The Athletic now. Get it now. But for now, I will leave you in the warm hands and the cool embrace of a rushed intro, because we did it for the 8th time. Yeah, let's begin talking about Chelsea 1-0 Newcastle. A lovely goal from Kai Havertz there. Of course, Newcastle should have had a penalty as well, I think it's fair to say.
Definitely.
But a narrow win from Chelsea. Of course, no one was really paying attention to the actual football, though. I think the main reason that I was keen to tune in was just to see what the live reaction would be to last week's news of the sanctions, Seb.
Yeah, there sure was some strange coverage. Now, I've got kind of conflicting reports because people at the game said that some of the things that were reflected on television and which have been reported in the press as of Monday, not fair depictions of activity outside the ground, but there were a few talking heads saying weird things, and there's one guy saying something about how, lots of sympathy for Ukrainian people, but on the other hand, I can't take my grandchildren to football matches or something. It was bizarre. He didn't seem to really get the idea of
one of those things does feel more important than the other.
Just a little bit. And obviously, one of the things that caught everybody's attention was there was a Saudi Arabian flag in the Newcastle end, which drew the response I guess you would expect. So the backdrop and the context for this was odd, and it felt weird watching it. It felt as if we were watching the football, but the football was the thing that mattered the least during the actual football match, which is probably not how you should feel.
Well, in terms of the audience as well, we know it's coming to an end. The Newcastle tickets were all sold before the sanctions were put in place, and therefore it's one of the last games that you'll see, a kind of a full house, as it were.
Well, we don't know. So the latest, and this is a fluid situation, so it's subject to change, but tickets that have already been sold, people can use, obviously. Season ticket holders, fine, can keep going. Now, there is some suggestion that the government will alter the license that Chelsea are operating under so that they can sell tickets, but the funds from those tickets, the revenue from them, would go to charitable organisations.
Okay.
That's rumour at the moment. That's not fact. We'll see how that goes. But obviously, we don't know. And cliche, but it's a week with this kind of situation is a very, very long time. So
I was just thinking they could just give them away as well, couldn't they? I mean,
I don't know how that would work.
I'm not sure if it works under the sanctions, but as a concept.
Well, I suppose so, but in the same way, I don't know. Are they able to give merchandise away? Probably not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the rules are, but we do know that the rules are changing or are subject to change, and that Chelsea are involved in negotiations with the British government about this.
Well, let me ask you this. Since we spoke to Dom on Thursday or Friday, have there been any significant changes over the weekend already? Do we know anything else yet, or is this still all going to shake out maybe this week or next week?
Still a lot of chuntering. Still a lot of kind of whispers from agents talking about whether they're going to be paid bonus payments, where the players who are looking for transfers out of the club at the end of the season are going to get those. There's nothing really official. And one of the themes of this has been, and I think this is one of the reasons why Thomas Tuchel found himself front and centre of some of the questioning, is the communication from the club has been very vague. Maybe there's a reason for that.
came out to do a press conference, didn't he? But
He did, but even that was just to say we don't know what's going to happen day to day. So it was a sort
I think that's true.
No, I don't for 1 second doubt him. I just think that from a moving along the story perspective doesn't do very much. And interesting to hear from someone at Chelsea. Important to hear from someone beyond the manager too. Yeah, because clearly, but in terms of developing our understanding of it, no, I'm still where I am.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting point you raised, and of course, over the weekend there was another situation of a manager being asked a question that presumably would be better put to the owners, but also I believe is very reasonably put to the manager. And I speak, of course, of Tarek Panya, who is the New York Times reporter, asked Eddie Howe after the game about the beheadings that had taken place in Saudi Arabia the day before, which was a record high for the year or something, or was it more in one day than had been for the rest of the year? 81, something like that. Yeah. Eddie Howe, of course, doesn't know what to say to that, and said he only wanted to answer questions about the football. I thought I saw an enthusiastic, let's put it that way, debate about this on Twitter. Yeah. And for what it's worth, I think both of the people that said things there it's pretty fair. I mean, it is Tarek's job to ask those questions. The idea that a journalist shouldn't seems absolutely insane to me. It's literally his job to do that. And if Eddie Howe doesn't want to answer them or doesn't know how to answer them, and let's be honest, Eddie Howe doesn't know how to answer that question, then he can just say what he said, and that's fine. I mean, it's I'm sure it's not a compromise everyone will be happy with. But
no, well, there's a couple of points here which are worth making. The first is that, if you don't want your head coach being asked these questions, put up somebody else to answer them. Sure. I think that would be the first thing. Yeah. Completely get that Eddie Howe is in a difficult situation. I'm not expecting him to... I think the way he responded to that question was entirely predictable. This is really the only thing he can say.
I also don't think Tarek would have expected a different response, but he still has to ask the question.
It's his job to ask the question, so it's very fair to ask him. Also, the other point worth making is that as much sympathy as you can have for Eddie Howe being in that situation, he chose to take this job. Sure. And there was enough media coverage of the Newcastle ownership situation for him to be fully briefed on what he was walking into. Mm-hmm. So I'm not assigning any blame. I'm not suggesting that he should suddenly have a position. He shouldn't necessarily have to go beyond football discourse in a football press conference. I get that completely.
But you take the money, it's on the cards.
You're going to get asked. You're going to get asked. You have to be very naive if you don't think it's going to come up.
And not that he did complain about it, but you also can't complain about it. And there's no point in other people complaining about it on his behalf.
No, and the way of summarizing this was everyone did exactly as you'd expect them to do. Let's put it that way. And I don't think there should be any criticism for journalists asking these questions.
No. Can I also say? Yeah. I think it's funny the people that interject on the behalf of defending the club or whatever. A frequent accusation is a journalist with an agenda coming in, bringing their agenda. And it should just be about football. And you think, well, it kind of was about football before a state bought a football club. It was the club. It was the owners of the club that made it not about football. And then it's like saying, I put a big bowl of pasta in the fridge, and I say, there's no pasta in this fridge. And then when my wife says, but there is pasta in the fridge, I go, you've got an agenda.
I only want to talk about TV.
Yeah.
When that happens.
Let's only talk about the ketchup. Okay, well, enough of the trolls. Boring. Do you know what? I did. I watched last night the third episode of the new mini Louis Theroux series, Forbidden America, where he talks to the alt-right Twitch streamers and whatever. And it was a total mistake to watch it. It was a complete mistake. It was late at night. And I was just arguing with I was imagining, when you sort of see someone else having an argument and then you imagine what you would say. And then I, doing that in my own house, on my own time, for no reason, also not realising that's the entire purpose is for them to get you all annoyed and for you to argue. I'm not even there, and I'm getting annoyed.
That's what troll is, though. The best trolls are the ones that...
And I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah. That's excellent trolling. If you think if it were to be an art form, that's what it is.
Multi-layered trolling.
It's not just slagging someone off. It's trying to provoke a reaction from someone. Yeah. You throw the grenade and you leave. That's what it is.
You bury yourselves into your...
It annoys me that, especially the red top press changed what the meaning of trolling was to being a bully. Sure. It's not. It's it's not. It doesn't mean you're a nice person doing it, but it is it can be funny. He's done it in a nice way.
So I saw yesterday when after I know we're jumping back to what we were previously discussing, but after Tarek Panja asked this question, a Newcastle fan said, "Yeah, it's typical Southern press, just Southern bias." New York Times, right? New York Times.
It is bizarre the amount that someone will go to defend their club because that's
It's the
what they identify
contortions.
with most. I mean, the willing accept. I mean, whatever your opinions on Saudi Arabia are or whatever, that people are instantly having Saudi Arabia flags is very.
It's provocative.
It's you must know the context of it. You cannot be so.
Well, one of the
blinkered
things
that you don't know.
one of the things that came up, and obviously this is a really good example of whataboutery is so why doesn't Ralph Ranić get questioned about the execution rate in the United States? It's like because there's no sovereign wealth fund of the United States, and
Sure.
the Glazer family don't. It's
The
that's quite
Glazer
effective
family
trolling.
aren't connected to the people who are doing the execution.
But this is the thing. This is why sometimes trolling or kind of that kind of moral equivalency that it works because it's so stupid that you can't quite join the dots. And so when you
Sure.
can't do that, you can't really argue about it. And that's kind of the aim of it, I suppose.
Yes.
But what JJ said is right. It's amazing the contortions and the twisting and the disingenuous takes that go on when.
I remember have you ever seen Hypernormalisation?
No.
It's like my favourite thing. You know this, Seb. But it's an Adam Curtis film. It's a BBC documentary. Worth watching. It's like 3.5 hours long. I think it's still on BBC iPlayer. But he talks about this guy. I can't remember his name. Antonin something. He's a Russian politician, one of Vladimir Putin's right-hand men. And he had a background in experimental theatre. And his role was sort of in like a public propaganda, but one of the things that he did and pioneered the evolution of as a government policy was deliberate misinformation. The way that he did it was, say, for example, to sponsor a right-wing protest about something, and then also sponsor the Antifa or left-wing protest, which was an anti-protest to that protest. But then, crucially, he'd tell everyone that he'd done that. So everyone knew the government was sponsoring both things. And he did this over and over again to the point where no one really knew what anyone thought or what the government's position on anything was. And it just creates this perfect kind of a confusing web of obfuscation. What did you say?
Obfuscation.
Why can't I say the word?
I don't know. I think I interrupt you.
Yeah.
I think it was
No, that's fine.
Probably,
But I feel like that's kind of what the internet and message boards, Twitter has become for discussion about football.
This is part of the process when you buy a football club. Part of what you obtain is a little army of people that will do this for you, and that's what the game is. And so takes us back in a kind of perfect circle to that I just want to talk about football. Well, it's not really about football anymore.
Yeah.
So
and to the people everywhere listening to this now complaining that we're not talking about football, it's not our fault. A quick word on Newcastle, JJ, because they were on a winning streak. Narrowly defeated in this game. Of course, as Seb said at the beginning, probably should have had a penalty. But they're far from the team that they were, aren't they? They're
an awful lot better. I think you'll mostly have heard any commentators when you've watched Newcastle games talk about how much more organised they look. They look much better defence. The defensive shape seems to be much more compact. But this is the thing, right? So it doesn't matter what system or tactics you're using. Honestly, the players are just working really, really hard.
Yeah.
So
they've all got these good new friends that have arrived, and now they're all trying to play hard to impress their new friends, right?
Well, I mean, like Kieran Trippier came in and was really important. Won them a couple of games of free kick goals. He's now injured. I mean, the back three was Lascelles, Schär, and Dan Burn. Burn's been absolutely
excellent,
so vital. And the thing with Burn, right? Like decent footballer. He's not going to be there leading starting centre back in 5 years' time.
Will Burn be the kind of like Man City's Julian Lescott?
Probably. I mean, but Burn brings the so that's such a wise signing because he is a Newcastle fan, and I think you must get a little bit extra out of someone who's desperate to win, other than someone who's a mercenary or just a career footballer. Also, he's just aggressive. He's dirty.
Yeah.
Like he leaves bits into players, and they don't like that. And even if you can't see it, there will definitely be forwards, like tricky wingers and dribblers and strikers, who don't want to play against him because he's going to kick them.
Yeah.
And he'll like grab them and do things, and you can see it. And he'll he gets sent off eventually, and he'll give away penalties and stuff like that. But decent. Matt Targett was really good in this game as well. I mean, they're not able to play all the players that they've signed in. Chris Wood's still starting. Bruno Guimaraes started in this game. I don't think he's been getting into the team.
First start was actually Southampton a couple of days before. That was his first start for Newcastle. Guimaraes.
Already looks good when he comes on.
Guimaraes, as you learned,
yes.
JJ.
Alan Saint-Maximin came back in this game as well as a substitute later on. He makes a huge difference to them, wins them games on their own. But yeah, it is. So they changed the system as well for this. So they've been playing I think it's normally like a 4-1-4-1 or something like that, playing Joe Ellington as a centre midfielder. And we've got a video about that in Tifo IRL coming out next week, I think.
Is it next week? That one?
It is,
yeah.
Because his stats make him look like one of the best ball-winning midfielders in the world.
It's quite incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
The Dan Burn thing is interesting. I went to Newcastle's game with Southampton on Thursday night, and Newcastle have a set piece routine from corners where Matt Targett from the right hand side just plays a big loopy ball to the back post to Dan Burn, who's like 9 foot tall. He's Joe Devine tall.
That's called a corner, by the way.
It is indeed.
Yeah,
but
kicking a corner in.
It's the move from which Bruno Guimaraes scored his first goal. That Guimaraes. You have to do it with the eyebrows.
Guimaraes. Well, no, only when you first say it, or when you're teaching someone else to say it.
Okay.
But I feel like we've got sway here. If we start saying Guimaraes, then maybe other people will.
Okay, fine. Either way, and then after that goal went in, 2 or 3 minutes later, Newcastle win another corner, and they run exactly the same corner move on the routine.
They did another corner.
Yeah. Interesting because
they kicked it in from the corner again.
You think and they nearly scored, and it was the same balls, same flight, same trajectory, same knockdown from Burn in the same position, and Southampton nearly conceded again. And that's one of the reasons why he is actually quite a smart signing, is because if nothing else, and he's been excellent in all round, if nothing else, you just use him as that kind of pivot for all of your corner routines. And just say to opposition defenders, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because he's so tall. I think he's 6'7".
Yes, he is 6'7".
6'7".
Yeah.
So there are very, very few teams in the league who have the kind of the height at centre half or anywhere else on their side to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so that becomes an immediate attacking opportunity, regardless of how well you play in the rest of the pitch. So it's
Can I make a very serious point?
Yeah.
If you're not watching us, we're sat round a sort of a large table, and Seb sat on a corner with me. And what Seb's doing right now is Seb has stretched his legs out all the way to block any of my ability to be under the table at all. And he's done it without sort of even noticing. I've kicked his legs once and he hasn't moved them.
It's just asserting dominance.
That is just a dominance assertion, isn't it? It's like the kind that you go to a restaurant with, you sit opposite them and then they put their feet out so that you have to tuck yours in underneath your chair. And you know what they call that kind of person, Seb?
I mean, is that a word we can use on the podcast?
No, but it's a bad person. They call it a bad person.
Full disclosure, I have only had about 3 hours sleep, and so I was reclining in the way that you might do on a long haul flight. Just doing a bit of this, and I was gradually going to just rock to sleep during the podcast.
Yes, well,
I'll try not to.
As are all
I've had
listeners.
a very strong coffee, so hopefully that will kick in soon, and I will.
Do you know there's something that I need to tell the listeners about now?
Is it about all the noise from the building site we appear to be on?
It's
and
not,
the heating pipes running above us.
It's not. It's about all the noise that we'll be making next Monday. Yeah?
Exciting.
And that Monday is Monday, the 21st of March.
Oh my God, that's next week.
It's
So
next
exciting.
week.
So
Yeah.
exciting.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's next week, this Monday. Not the, yes.
The 21st.
The 21st of March. We will be doing a very exclusive, very intimate Tifo football quiz at the Old Red Lion Theatre Pub in Angel, Islington.
Finest football watching venue in North London.
It really is the finest football watching venue in all of the UK. And there are tickets available. There's only 60 tickets. It's a small space to make sure everyone can get a seat. And also, because last time we did this, it was a bit of a nightmare trying to match single people together. It's not a singles night, gang. It is.
You did make it sound a little bit like a singles night.
Well, it was a kind of a singles night. Single meet new friends night. I like the idea, by the way. But for this time round, we're only selling tickets in batches of 4. You have to buy a table, basically. Tickets are £5 each. A table is £20. If you want to come, you can do that by visiting the link in the description to this podcast. We'll make sure there's a link there. Also, if you just Google the Old Red Lion Theatre Pub in Angel, head to their website, you'll be able to find tickets on there. They will go quickly, so if you're keen and you are hearing this now and it is still on Tuesday when this is released, then check the website and don't leave it until later, because they will sell out quickly, given that there are so few and there are so many weird people who want to come.
What happens for the weird individual people.
No, you can't be an individual anymore. That's it. Like I'm banning anyone who doesn't have friends.
So right, okay, right.
Yeah, I didn't want to, for what it's worth. I thought it would be
a
more
lot
fun.
of our
Yeah, exactly.
Because I tell you, if
I think what
there
we
weren't
should do,
4 of us, then I would not be able to come to this
I
event.
think what we should do at one point is then maybe the next one we should do a singles only one, where we match people up in teams, because that's quite nice. I'd go to something like that and meet. I'm always looking for new friends.
Very strange night like that.
Yeah,
that would just
that's why one of the reasons it's worth doing. Anyway, the money is going to go. The profits are going to go to a charity. We haven't decided which charity yet, but it'll be some kind of Ukraine relief charity. The money that doesn't go towards the prizes, and it's going to be fun. JJ and Alex and Seb and I will all be there. There'll be a few of the other Tifo gang as well. Uncle Damien will be there. I think he's bringing a team. I think he just told me he's doing that, and I guess he's not going to pay. So I guess we can knock some of the charity money off. Thanks, Uncle Damien. Unless this team stand behind the bar, maybe they can do that. Yeah. But it'll be really fun. The pub will be closed. It'll just be a Tifo only event. We'll have a great time.
Will there be food?
I think they do. I think
I'm
they
really
have
asking for me, because what if I get hungry?
What if you get hungry?
Yeah.
I'm sure you can solve that. Okay. I think there is food there. Yeah, and it begins, I believe, at 7:00. Or 6:30. Try to arrive at 6:30. The quiz itself will start at 7, so you want to get in.
Can you not get in earlier so they can drink more?
I probably can. Yeah, I'm sure they can. I think just the pub closes for only those people at 6:30.
Right.
So you come earlier if you want.
Should they wear some kind of identifying piece of clothing? Like a
no
yellow or. So no, because
a good way of identifying people, it's always worked throughout history, has just been their name.
Well, no, but I just mean that
work.
If you were,
unless you want to come up with a new human system now.
Yeah, but if you were drinking the red line, from
what you're saying is you want large groups of people to wear certain things to be identifiable.
No,
is that what you're saying?
No,
because I think people have tried that before, Seb, and it didn't work out that well. Okay,
don't do that.
It didn't work out that well.
But if you were going to the Old Red Lion on a Monday afternoon and you wanted to drink, as JJ has suggested, but you were also taking part in the event, how do you seem like you're not a blagger?
Is that 99% of the people who listen to this that don't live in London are losing their minds now because we are, we're dragging out this, aren't we? We're dragging
hotels
this out.
So that they can stay in London
booking
on Monday
a hotel.
Night. And
I would encourage people to stay at the Premier Inn in Angel. That's where I always get people to stay. It's good there as well.
It's a nice Hilton.
Yeah, there's that as well.
That's a really good Hilton.
Anyway, listen, it's going to be fun. And there probably aren't any tickets left by the time you're listening to this, but check anyway.
I think there might be a few.
You'd be surprised. Last time it sold out ridiculously quickly.
I know.
Anyway, it'll be fun. So come, the Old Red Lion Theatre, Monday the 21st, and you have to be in a team of 4. There we go. So only people with friends. Fine. Let's go for a break. Manchester United 3-2 Tottenham Hotspur. Not a great United performance, Seb. But they did defend a bit better than they have done for something. They scored no goal.
Yes.
But,
Hey, should we start with that own goal? Because I've got a little bit of a grievance.
Sure.
With that. So I don't think that should count.
Sure.
So JJ and I were talking about this before we started recording. And
So looking forward to hearing this for the second time.
Yeah. So Christian Romero is in an offside position behind Harry Maguire when Sergio Reguilon cuts the ball across the box. And Harry Maguire only has to make the intervention he does because Romero is active in a position behind him. But he's offside. So how is he not
impacting play?
How is he not impacting play? That goal cannot count. And we've seen this before. And it seems like it's against the spirit of the rules because you are taking advantage of a loophole. I'm not saying that Christian Romero plots to be in that position, but he is. You're taking advantage. He didn't scheme. It's not a strategy. It just happened, but it still shouldn't count. So yeah, grievance over.
No, fair enough.
My take on it was that as a neutral, I'm glad it counts because it's more entertaining and funny. But I would be raging if it was my team conceded it.
Sure, yeah,
because it does 100% impact what Maguire's trying to do.
Yeah, because if for instance, okay, so Man United go and score again, so it's okay. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But at the same time, if that cost them top 4, whatever, then it's a messy area of the rules which needs clarifying. And I'm not pro ruling out goals and creating more reasons to do so. It's just that it seems silly and weird.
No, fair enough. Okay. Well, other things that came from this game. No Bruno Fernandes. It's always been interesting to watch Manchester United, JJ, over the last couple of years without Bruno Fernandes. They generally seem like a total cluster. But in this situation, they didn't. Paul Pogba played sort of in that advanced midfield 10 role. I thought he was very good. Ronaldo, of course, had a fantastic game and scored a hat-trick. I believe it was only his second Premier League hat-trick, the first one happening almost 15 years ago. So that's amusing. But his 58th or 59th career hat-trick to date.
59th, I think.
So he was he played very well. They seemed all right on balance, didn't they?
Yeah, if anything, you might say that having Fernandes not there, constantly hitting passes that give the ball away.
And constantly starting presses just to make it look like
he's doing something.
Well,
this is the thing. So obviously Fernandes is a very good player, and one of the things you might notice about Fernandes, if you went looking for it like a nerd, is that his passing accuracy his statistic for that percentage is low, because not because he's bad at passing, because he's trying stuff.
Yeah,
which is very, very valuable, and why he's able to create so many chances. Whatever, he makes things happen, but. In a system like what Rangnick's put in place, where they want to be very cohesive and not compact, but you want to eliminate those sorts of turnovers. If you're trying to constantly go forward and then counter press higher up the pitch, which is not exactly what they're doing, to be honest, but they're trying to move it from front to back to front quicker. If you're then giving it away with passes of the likes that Fernandes would make, then that's not ideal, because you're wasting all your energy trying to win the ball back constantly because you're giving it away. But they seemed okay. This is the thing, like, starting to think that maybe Ronaldo's done, like maybe his powers are waning, and then he rockets one in with it. Like, the technique for that first goal is unbelievable.
Great hit.
Like, it's such a weird technique as well. There's another weird little shot he takes where Lloris does really well. It seemed to be underrated, this save. It's Lloris's near post. He dives to his left and pushes it away with one hand. Ronaldo is looking at the other side of the goal and sort of uses the outside of his right foot. And it's not traditionally that you want to strike through cleanly, so your technique should be strike through, so you attach with laces. But he hits it in such a weird way that it could easily catch out. It's almost like a toe poke, but off the laces.
Fan of a toe poke right here.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because Ronaldo, Seb, was out of action for some of midweek. I don't think he trained with the team for half the week. He was just in the gym, apparently, for one day. And then he came and scored a hat-trick. Is there any value in him, A, missing a game from now and then, and B, just not training?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you look at the first goal and you think...
It's not a serious suggestion, by the way.
No, sure. But the first goal, you think, well, Ronaldo scores that goal wherever he is, whoever he's playing for, and whoever his teammates may be, because it doesn't depend on any chemistry. Second goal, maybe a little bit more, because it's just a breakaway and taking advantage of a Tottenham mistake. The third goal, though, it's interesting that he missed so much training time, because that seemed like a perfect routine. It's a great ball. Tellers, I think, to the corner, but also the separation that's created. If you look at the grouping of Man United players before the corner is taken, and look at the way they separate themselves, and the way that Ronaldo is put in probably the perfect position for a header at goal from that area, because that's like it's amazing how much space he has in that situation. If you think about defending a corner against Man United, who is the one player that you try and take away, the one player that you mark, Cristiano Ronaldo, and yet he's the one player that's most free, which is actually, okay, I'm sure there's probably a defensive mistake in there at some point, Tottenham, but at the same time, that's just really good design as well.
Yeah, okay.
I think this as well proves that Eric Dier, no matter how much he wants to be a centre-back, will just never, I don't think, be good enough to be a top six centre-back. Like, the amount of space he gives Ronaldo doesn't close him down. I think it was Jamie Carragher or someone described it as not criminal, but something that you cannot allow it. And when you notice it, that he doesn't close down Ronaldo as soon as he's lining up a shot, he sort of watches it. He almost shows him the exact part of the goal where he's going to put it, so that the way Ronaldo bends the ball puts it exactly where he's opened up. And this is the thing, no matter, even though you've got Conte, who is able to turn defenders into really good defenders, there's sometimes something within a player that means they can't take the extra bit, which is sort of indicative of Tottenham, in that they have players who are good, but not of the level that they need to be and where they're at. And you see like Conte walking off the pitch just looking... Yeah. Like, what am I meant to do here?
I think that Dier thing is a really good point. I think the problem is that, like, the defensive side of Dier's game is probably 7 out of 10, but Dier has to play because of how good he is on the ball, or at least how good he is relative to the other defenders.
It's his character as well, apparently.
His character, like, people like him. He's a well-respected member of the dressing room, but
he's
also
a leader.
Well, he's a leader, but also technically, if you don't have him in that back line, how are you playing the ball out in anything other than a direct way? Romero solves that problem a bit because he's a good footballer, but he's been injured for most of the season. So you need Dier as your centre point, because He's going to take the ball off the goalkeeper. He's going to take the ball back inside from the fullbacks to the wing backs. If you don't have him, you look at a Tottenham team that just give the ball away hopelessly.
You can't initiate play in the
same
way.
So it's a double-edged sword. And I don't think anybody disputes Dyer's flaws as a defender. They're obviously there. But then what are you going to do until the transfer window opens and such a point where Tottenham actually spend some money on centre-backs, I guess.
Well, speaking of another defensive issue, I suppose you could call it, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Dalot. An interesting little kind of battle going on there for that right-back space in Rangnick's team. Dalot very clearly leading the way at the moment, kind of seems much more suited, would you say, JJ, to Rangnick's style of play than Wan-Bissaka?
He's more of a winger, and I think if you're a team like Man United who should have the majority of possession and should be able to then dictate more what you're doing with it, you really need your fullbacks to be better at attacking.
Sure.
When you come up against someone like Barcelona or Real Madrid in the Champions League, that's when you need to... Obviously, what you want is a balance of both. Liverpool's got it perfect with... Robertson, and I think Robertson's probably the example. Alexander-Arnold's an amazing footballer. Robertson's probably the better defender, but is also amazing going forward as well. When you look at United, Alex Telles is very good going forward. It's one of the things he's good at. He had lots of assists when he was playing at Porto. I think he was at, wasn't it? Porto, yeah. And Wan-Bissaka was a defensive-minded fullback in a defensive Crystal Palace team. Really good numbers for tackling and blocking people because he just doesn't let anyone past him. But he has, I think we've covered it in IRL videos, United didn't have a very heavy dependency on the left side of their team to build play. And because Wan-Bissaka is so limited going forward, it means that other players drop out of position to try and supplement him and to be able to get the ball through things. So
it also means when Luke Shaw is injured, as he is at the moment, that the team really struggles to create from those fullback areas.
And Dalot's a winger, and I think Dalot's quite a decent player, and he'll get better.
He's young as well.
Isn't it funny though, because Wan-Bissaka grew up as a winger. And obviously, when that happens, you always think they're going to retain a little bit of their attacking instincts. Yeah. But I think the days of saying that Wan-Bissaka is a compromise between.
Just came out, that one.
I think the days of saying that Wan-Bissaka is defensively excellent are kind of over for the time being, because I think his confidence has been so badly damaged.
You also have to play to be defensively excellent.
Yeah, that too. And I don't think if Man United play Barcelona tomorrow or 1970s Brazil, I don't think he should go back in the team as a restrictive measure, because I just don't think he provides that security at the moment. He may well do again, because I think
maybe
fundamentally really good defender, but not at the moment. So
I've got one more thing before we move on from this, a prediction for you both. I'd love to hear what you think about this. We're going to talk about PSG shortly.
Yeah.
And of course the situation there, it seems like they could as easily win the Champions League next year as they could have an exodus in the summer. Right? Pochettino maybe wants to leave. And I think lots of Manchester United fans are currently discussing the option between him and Ten Hag and thinking who would be better, blah, 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 blah. I'm wondering, is Pochettino going to leave PSG just as Conte gets absolutely fed up of what's happening at Spurs? And then there's a little come home party for Maurizio. Could it be? Could it be?
I wonder if Pochettino leaves PSG, I think it happens right at the beginning of the summer. If Conte gets fed up of Daniel Levy, I think it happens at the end of the summer, because it happens after 6 weeks of, well, we won't get that player, but we've got this other cheaper guy who looks kind of the same. He's got the same haircut. Sure. So maybe, that kind of stuff at Spurs, that would hack Conte off. I don't think it aligns. I can see Pochettino managing Tottenham again at some point, but probably not quite so soon.
What a shame. Yeah. Anyway, I've got a question to ask you, a different question. Marcus Rashford. People talking about Marcus Rashford now, because he's been out of form for some time, JJ. He's not looking that good. I mean, he was fine in the game at the weekend, but it's been a while since he's done something which has, got the crowd up off their seats. Is he any good? Is he? I mean, what's he? He is good, right? But how good is he?
I think it's really hard to tell with Rashford. Remember when he broke through and he was like a pacey kind of poacher off the
brace against Arsenal, wasn't it?
His first week, he scored in Europe, and then he scored a couple against Arsenal at Old Trafford. He had an amazing start to his career.
But then obviously, to be a lone centre forward in the Premier League or Champions League, you have to be amazing. You have to be so good. And I don't think he's built like a winger. And so he can play on the right or left. I think he tends to be better on the right when I've seen him, but he suits playing on the left more because he can come inside onto a stronger right foot.
I don't remember him having that good a game on the right.
I think I have. Maybe I'm just it's in my head. But This thing, I would say if he's on FIFA, probably the highest rating he'd ever get would be like an 85 when he's on form. I would think, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know what his actual thing was.
Yeah, you always felt like he was going to kick on from what he started as, and he seems to be a player that sort of hasn't really done that.
I feel like it's messy. So because Rashford comes through at a time where it's pretty difficult for United. Van Gaal's the manager, there's a lot of disaffection. All of a sudden, you get this teenage local boy who's playing really well. He's living a bit of a fairy tale. Super easy to get seduced by that as a story. And so I almost feel like, yes, his opening week and his kind of breakout months were fundamental to him establishing himself at Man United. I think over time they've become a curse because they created this expectation of this hybrid winger goal scorer who can do everything. I think Marcus Rashford is he's just a very good player.
Sure.
He's just not an outstanding one, and he's not an excellent one.
Yeah.
And he is fine for Man United. If Man United are going to finish 5th or 4th, that's fine. But obviously that's not their objective. You need to be aiming a little bit higher. And also,
he's the sort of standard of squad player that you'd need, but even in the Alex Ferguson days, who is would be a high level player for any other club, but they should still have someone with the extra X factor that you want to be able to win things comfortably.
Absolutely. And it comes down to whether he wants that as a role, what he wants from his career. Does he want to obviously grow up a Man United fan, grow up in the area, local boy? Fair enough. If he wants to stay at Man United for the rest of his career and fill that sort of what we'll loosely call the Lingard role, I guess, then good for him. But then if you want to be the
Do you think he's in Lingard role territory?
Not in the way that that comes
he's
across.
He's not that peripheral.
No, not yet, but you could see it.
And he's not in the scenario where, I think with Lingard,
I think Lingard's a very good player.
I agree, but it was sooner that fans either the perception changed or they realised that whatever's true, that he wasn't going to turn into what they hoped. I don't think we're there with Rashford yet.
No, I don't think I don't think so either. I just think in terms of being peripheral, I think if Man United were constructing, if you looked at Man United's transfer plans, for instance, I don't think anybody there is thinking, well, Marcus Rashford can play this position, so we won't invest anything there. I think that's probably the difference. I think you would build on top of him a little bit.
Well, that Jadon Sancho has been playing off the left is
exactly
it's
kind of instructive of that.
Here's a thing as well. I think one of the downsides of it is obviously Marcus Rashford has become very well known for another reason other than football in the last year or two, and this was always going to happen, right? Not the drop off in form, but the reaction and the kind of backlash to some of that as a result of the drop off in form. I think it's just a good sort of example of why it's difficult for football players to have an opinion about anything or speak out about anything, because whether or not it's related to football, and in this case, the sorts of things that Marcus Rashford would talk publicly about are not related to football, it's still like people, whether people agree with it or not, how people react to it is still linked to how you're performing. And so I think it was always inevitable that when Marcus Rashford hit a rough vein of form, and this one's been lasting for a while, the typical kind of, the stereotypical expected sorts of responses to it are maybe you should spend more time on the training field and less time like tweeting about human rights issues. That was always going to happen. And I just want to make that point because I'm sure everyone is aware of it. We're definitely aware of it. They're not linked, but it's very annoying that happens. But it is inevitable when a footballer steps outside of their box that people want them to live in. I feel sad for him. For that reason, because that's there's no evidence at all to suggest that is related to it.
It's entirely disingenuous. Like the idea that a footballer can't be more than a footballer,
a human being.
You got this kind of bright young guy who has a view on how the world should be and how it can be made better,
and is largely celebrated for that.
Not only that, but he's one of the few people of his age in his position who has the tools, the platform, the audience, whatever,
the courage
to actually affect some kind of change. And yet you get this kind of army of pricks, who are going to twerk.
Well, it's like I find it amusing because it's a bit like the kind of the equivalence that some people draw is as to suggest that if Marcus Rashford can't score a goal every weekend, then children should go hungry because that can't be true.
Well, because there's not enough space in the human brain to be good at football, but also to think that child poverty is bad. How could anybody have enough, intellectual capacity to consider those two things at the same time?
Exactly.
It's just nonsense.
I would say in Rashford, so that he's just having a bad season. So
I thought you were going to say, well, I should
well, he probably should, yeah.
It's only children.
Bad season and a half, maybe too.
Well, I mean, last season, you look at his numbers last season, 11 goals and 9 assists in the league last season. So that's decent. And the year before that, was it a couple of years before, he was 17 goals and 7.
Sure.
So he is a good level of player.
Yes.
But I maintain that I think he misses something that would make him outstanding enough to be part of the Man United team you want. I've noticed when he plays for England, he seems to be really, really good.
Sure.
And I think maybe Southgate's got a lot more out of him. Yeah, when he comes on, he's very direct and asked to do lots. He can pull off all these tricks, which he hasn't been really been doing recently. But he's also struggling in a Man United team, which is struggling to adapt. They don't even know what they are. So I think once that's all settled down, you probably get far more out of him.
Do you reckon that a little bit of that is because when he plays for England, he benefits quite a lot from playing with Harry Kane? Like you have that kind of creative 9-10 centre forward who can be a target man and can use his pace a little bit.
Would you take him at Spurs?
Yeah, he's definitely good enough to play for Spurs, but then that's not the same as being good enough to play for Man United. Like Spurs are going to be a
Rashford, Kane's son would be a great 3.
That'd be very nice. Yeah.
Like
he could play like you could put Marcus Rashford at Arsenal, West Ham, Spurs. Like and he would be a maybe not 38 game starter, but probably 30 games. He'd be an essential part of his team. So yeah.
Well, there we go. Let's go for a break now, and after the break, we'll be back to discuss Everton, PSG, Arsenal, and the Champions League, all in 13 minutes. Everton, yes, Everton 0, 1 Wolves. Everton, JJ, now only out of the relegation zone on goal difference. Things are getting real, and it's kind of funny. Not if you're an Everton fan.
Not if you're an Everton fan.
Not if you're an Everton fan.
Or if you're Frank Lampard.
But just, I say it's funny for me because about 8 weeks ago, when people were saying, "Oh, Everton really could get relegated," I just couldn't see it at all because of my understanding and perception of what Everton is as a football club. It doesn't matter if they're terrible. They've got good players. They're a massive club. I cannot imagine it. And yet here we are, only out of the relegation zone on goal difference, with arguably the worst form in the league.
I mean, in what world is Everton a team struggling where they are? So Everton spent where they are just now, and they spent what could be up to 40 million on Dele Alli, a player who they do not need.
Doesn't look like it will be, but yes.
No. Yeah, he can't even get in the team. They got Van de Beek doing all right with Takuri in midfield. Their defence is not good.
Michael Keane aside?
Well, I mean, no. John Joe Kenny was not good at all when he was at Celtic. I saw him play there. I mean, that's weird though, because then Shane Duffy was garbage at Celtic, but is doing quite well for Brighton. Regardless, the defence is not good. The first thing that Lampard you'd think would want to do is try and solidify them and make them more compact so they're not shipping so many goals. I mean, they only conceded 1 to Wolves here, who only tend to score a maximum of 1 goal per game anyway.
They did only need 1 to win.
Yeah, and it's a set piece, right? Whatever. Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are very good players.
Yes. Some would say excellent players.
Yeah, and they'd have some. It's just weird, isn't it?
Allen's a good player. Is he playing? Is he injured? What's happening with Allen?
He played it. So I didn't watch this game. I watched Everton against Spurs.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the worst performance I've seen against Tottenham all season. 3 down at half time. It could have been 6.
Sure, it was that game, right?
Like I also, the thing about the defense is like there are 2 schools of thought. People say, "Oh, it's a championship defense." Like it's not. It's just playing like one.
I mean, Mason Holgate and Michael Keane are not bad players.
That's it. England goalkeeper.
They're not. I'm not saying they're amazing. I'm not saying they're top pick for all players. But
they're not. I
they're
agree,
not relegation
where they are at the moment. Also, yes, Yerry Mina's out injured, and that makes a difference. They lost Luca Digne in the middle of the season. Seamus Coleman is getting older. Was a very, very good player at one point. Nathan Patterson hasn't kind of adapted yet. Fair enough, because he's a young player. But at the same time, this is coaching failure. Like some of these players could be upgraded, but this is not a team that should be 17th, and it should not have that goal difference.
And this team, sorry, can I just say, this team with virtually the same players, minus James Rodriguez, was the team that was top of the league at Christmas last season. They're a good team.
And this is the thing as well. It reminds me of actually...
I think top of the league.
I don't think it was at Christmas.
Was it not at Christmas?
It was in
early
autumn.
in the season.
And they had
I've
a really good
exaggerated
sort of
there.
4 or 5 games when they played brilliantly.
But the point stand, the sentiments.
Regardless, it's funny.
They
how-
won the league.
It's interesting how teams like this just suddenly get in a whole bunch of bad form and they can't get wins out anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they're doing on the training ground. They'll be asked to keep their heads up, asked to work really hard. Something just happens. It reminds me, I think, of Hearts were relegated from the Scottish Premiership with a team that was decent. And they should have been finishing roundabout. I mean, they just got promoted, I think. I might get my years wrong here, but I think they were relegated because the season ended early.
Sure.
It was points per game reasons they went down.
The building doesn't like what you're saying.
No, it doesn't. But that was a team that should have been probably top half, if not just quite comfortable in the middle, which is exactly where Everton should probably be. But as the confidence has dropped and teams just sense they could get a result out of them, teams maybe raise their game a little bit because they feel they can get something out of them. And then it doesn't matter what you do with your tactics, whatever. And this happens in like Football Manager, the game. Doesn't matter what you do, you just keep losing. And it's, the players, the morale drops, confidence drops. And it's actually happening just now with Aberdeen in the Premiership this year. Like they could very well fall into a relegation battle now. It didn't seem like I was laughing at the thought of it not a few weeks ago, but now very much it could actually happen. And it's very, very stressful.
Yeah. I want to hear more about this.
Well, they changed managers at Aberdeen. Stephen Glass went. Jim Goodwin's come in, still can't get a win. Same squad, quite a good squad, but not as well balanced as you actually want it to be. And Benitez's squad at Everton, they didn't spend any money in the summer. They went very cheap, tried to add players like Damari Gray's decent. And I mean, Andros Townsend's coming. And you're
both missing at the moment as well.
Yeah. But there's the thing, it doesn't really matter. I think they're a lower middle table team, I think Everton.
I think they're a comfortable middle table and potentially upper middle
so
table
it should be
team.
middle table, yeah.
If you have all of those players fit and you look at what's in the midfield, so Decore, Allen, Andre Gomez,
They finished eighth.
That is a
lot of injuries. Missing Calvert-Lewin most of the season's big.
They do Calvert-Lewin, but then you're able to compensate for the loss of a Calvert-Lewin with someone like Richarlison, who is not a centre forward but can play there.
Yeah.
That defence,
Solomon Rondon.
you've got. Yeah, Everton fans hate him.
Yeah,
No,
Absolutely
not
hate
available,
him. I mean, I think Ronald's probably beyond his best, and we should probably stop mentioning him in sensible transfers videos. Never again.
No, never stop.
Okay, all right.
We'll be mentioning him in 8 years' time as an option for
Always,
West Brom when they're going down
emergency centre half.
Yeah.
At the same time, like if you look at things like so that Tottenham performance, you have that group of defenders, and yes, you've got injuries, but you have that group of defenders, and you say what you want to do with Harry Kane and Son Heung-min is you want to push really high up the pitch and give loads of space between your back, your back line and your goalkeeper.
Because they haven't recently shown how they exploit exactly that.
Son, just do your worst. Just do your worst.
I mean, we just watched Tottenham tear apart Manchester City, who played against them in that.
With a high line, conceded a goal with a high line. Also, even if you hadn't watched a single Tottenham game all season, you know that that's what Son likes to do.
Sure.
And you know that combination between Kane and Son is based on that little dynamic in part.
Yeah.
And so you say as a coach, let's do that away from home.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, on the one hand, I've got some sympathy because you've got absentees and there are some issues with confidence. But at the same time, give your team a chance to win or take a point. At least build into the game rather than going straight out and say, we're gonna enforce our style of play on this opponent, even though we haven't got the players to do it. That's madness.
Sure.
Absolute madness.
Well, plenty more to come from Everton for the rest of the season, of course. In fact, the same amount to come from all the other teams because there's an equal number of games left, I imagine.
Well, not technically true, of course, because lots of games in hand, which we did a good video about that. So
Arsenal have 3 games in hand on Man United or something. That's a big, for fourth place.
Yeah. I think they have 3 over United, Spurs, and there might be 2 over West Ham.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Let's do more speculative maths.
Yes.
After we've talked about PSG and the fallout at PSG. Everyone other than Mbappe was booed at the Parc des Princes on Sunday, including Pochettino, including Messi. Leonardo seems like perhaps he's on the way out as sporting director. I mean, as we said before, it could be an exodus in the summer. They could as easily win the Champions League. Who knows what's going to happen? But the fallout when they do leave the Champions League is always a big deal, isn't it, JJ? Because it's really the only thing they have to compete for in the season, despite the fact, of course, that they did lose last season.
And Monaco,
yeah.
I think they're 11 points clear or something.
I mean, you should just stroll to the league. But you imagine if they did chop Pochettino before the end of the season because they're fed up with that, what would be deemed a failure in the Champions League, then he would end up having won not a sausage. Well, he won like the French Cup or something like that. No one cares.
Well, I guess also that would depend on the situation with the players, wouldn't it? You can imagine a scenario where the players are unhappy with the environment and Pochettino, which I don't think is the case.
No, they seem to like
him. But hypothetically, if it was, it's the sort of thing the club would do in order to try to please the players to get them to stay.
I mean, I wonder if they do, because there was some of the reporting, which some of it's on The Athletic too, has talked about how during the preparations for the second leg against Real Madrid, some of the players were complaining about having to do so many sprints. I thought, yes, that's interesting, especially with the knowledge that Real Madrid basically pressed PSG out of that game after about an hour.
Yeah.
Hey, also
put it this way though, you complained to me when I asked you to write that script about Wigan.
Yes, I did.
But do you not like me? Do you want me to leave? Do you want to leave?
No, but I feel
there you go. So complaining doesn't actually equal wanting to leave.
But then I suppose if we encountered this situation every week, like if you tried to make me write that Wigan script all the time,
the same one
again and again and again, yeah, or the same, if we had the same argument about it.
Imagine how good it would be if you wrote it every week for a year, though. It would be the best script anyone's ever written about Wigan.
I mean, there would be few excuses for it not being so. Yeah, I've probably
still be some poor punctuation in the final version as well.
Probably you'd have to.
But JJ, I mean, what's say something.
PSG, Messi, Neymar. By the way, have we talked about the Champions League thing yet?
No, we haven't,
because it was after we did the last.
It was
podcast.
after.
Neymar, every single time they play in that Champions League games where they get done, he's constantly giving the ball away, getting tackled too easily, then moaning about it.
It's funny though, because he was really good in the first leg when he came on as a substitute.
Yeah, but then you can just sort of, I don't know, you can see that he's, those players that expect to get fouls because they expect, I've decided I'm being fouled there, so I should get a free kick. Yeah. But it's not. Like, get on with it. I mean, there's a certain extent you can agree that Donnarumma was fouled, but you're like,
sure.
He's only in that position because he's being, it's cockiness that, like, it's complacency. You shouldn't. You have a 2-0 lead in the Champions League. You think, we've won this game. That only happens because he invites a tackle. Maybe it's a foul, maybe it's not. For me, it's a shoulder to shoulder. It's fine. Get on with it. But it's like that moment felt so descriptive of what I think PSG are. It's just a kind of.
They just collapsed,
agree.
didn't they? They imploded.
Yeah, but it's that sort of thing. It's that weak mentality, and then they just fall apart.
Weak brain.
Well, compare that to Benzema's performance. Yeah. It's like one of the best Benzema sort of half an hours I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's like, obviously hugely skillful player.
Phenomenal.
Modric was brilliant, but like Benzema was a force of nature in that game. Yeah. So a 35-year-old Luka Modric is outworking you, and Modric's a wonderful player, but you shouldn't be in that situation. You shouldn't be befuddled just by the faintest bit of adversity.
Can I say, like, the most interesting thing for me about the end of that game was the last few seconds. You could see Benzema in the wide angle shot, and he was kind of looking around, asking the referee if the game was going to finish. The ball was being sort of kicked back and forward. We were reaching, seconds before the end. It was a very interesting moment to watch him because it was clear that he was desperate for it to finish. The narrative was already sewn up. He was a player that was imagining what was going to be said in his mind before it was being said.
Going to be said in the Keep the next day.
What was going to be said in the Keep? Yeah, the excellent rating I'm sure that he was going to get.
Probably gave him a 7
probably
or something.
6. Yes. But then he falls to his knees as soon as the whistle. It's just a very nice thing to see. It was it clearly meant a lot to him. And I think also the significance, was it Rory Smith? Someone tweeted something amusing after the game saying like, well, we were told that, a French national team player and some other funny witticism was going to be the witticism. I can't remember what he said. It was good though.
Yeah. Sounds good.
It was good.
I wish I'd read that.
Yeah. Well, PSG, there we go. I'm sure we'll talk about them more another time. But we have only got 0 minutes to talk about Arsenal, which is kind of funny, isn't it?
I think we should do a little bit on Arsenal if we go over, just because they were very good yesterday.
Sure.
On Sunday, sorry.
Go ahead.
On Tuesday.
Arsenal 2, 0 Leicester. Very good Arsenal performance. Much improved from Watford, Seb.
Yeah, so we talked about the Watford game, and obviously that was a bit bitty from Arsenal's perspective because they had moments when they were great and then also weird vulnerabilities to Watford. But this was much, much better. I thought Martinelli was brilliant. I know Odegaard was man of the match, but Martinelli is the one, as a Spurs fan, who scares me a little bit. He's the player that I don't want Arsenal to have because he looks a bit good. It's that. But I think also Lacazette's role continues to interest me because it's as if someone said, right, you no longer really have to worry about goal scoring. I know he scored the penalty, but he's playing this sort of offset role, which is very deferential and seemingly built in a way which suits all the other players around him except for him.
Yeah.
So you see the way he moves into space and the way he drags centre-backs up the pitch and towards him, and the way that kind of creates a little bit of space behind and to the sides. It's very interesting.
I like it. It's like he's bringing up the boys. It's like he's a mature student staying in a shared house with like some normal students. But he doesn't just tell them things. He knows how to get to them.
Yeah.
So, for example, he'll play FIFA all night with them. And then, when it's 3 a.m. and they've got lectures in the morning, all he's got to do is go, I should know better. I wish I'd gone to sleep earlier. He'll feel, but it'll sink in. The message will sink in without him telling them, leading by example, that kind of thing. Yeah. He's the guy. He doesn't just eat pot noodle. He knows how to make a casserole.
Makes spaghetti bolognese. Yeah, he's the grown-up. Well, also, by the way, worth saying, because I thought Arsenal's ball movement was really good too. I thought the way that we've talked in the past about, JJ did a video probably about a year ago about the donut.
Never let him forget.
Of Arsenal's attacking structure.
Yeah.
And it was a big problem. Ball movement was slow. It was kind of ponderous. It didn't seem to lead to anything. Now, the opposite's true. It's decisive and accurate and quick. And it looks a little bit like it's a sort of, you get a familiar sense watching Arsenal. This is kind of the aesthetic that was lost for a long time, but is starting to come back. Not to say it's fully back, but you can start to see the tenets of something. I'm not sure what it is yet.
Sure.
But something. They were very, very good. Leicester, what a mess. What a mess they are. But yeah.
Well, a season of mess for Leicester.
Yeah,
but,
go again next year, I guess. They're still in the still in the Europa League, and they still have a good chance of winning that. So maybe.
Well, before we finish, speaking of Europe, Tuesday and Wednesday Champions League days. Ajax Benfica play on Tuesday. Aggregate 2-2 there. A fun game for those to enjoy who won't be watching. Manchester United, Atletico Madrid, the aggregate 1-1. So all to play for with no away goals rule anymore on Tuesday. A little different on Wednesday. All to play for still in Juventus, Villarreal, aggregate 1-1. But Lille-Chelsea, Chelsea leading that tie 2-0. We were saying just before the podcast started, you can sort of see Chelsea winning the Champions League now, can't you? Through some sort of unity in resolve against the current scenario, and then disappearing from the face of the earth.
I mean, it's not a million miles different to the first time they won the European Cup under Di Matteo, when the season kind of imploded halfway through, but then they rescued it in the Champions League. They're still a very good side. It's one of the reasons why I kind of have a little bit of difficulty with the. Isn't it difficult for them story? Well, it is. There's uncertainty, but I think a lot of those players will be insulated from it. All their wages are guaranteed. Also, that is a
after they've driven to Lille.
Well, yeah. This is what we said at the beginning. We're not sure about the license and some of the restrictions on spending around travel, but that is still a very, very gifted football team and full of depth and attacking talent. And so it's not an underdog story just because Roman Abramovich has been disqualified.
Sure. Well, there we go. That's the end of this now. We'll be back next week with more of the same. But for now, JJ Bull the Bullet, thank you.
Thank you.
And Seb Stafford Bloor, Dankeschön.
Thank you, Joe Devine. Where can people buy tickets for our event?
Well, as I already said.
I know, but at the end, you'd probably stress it again.
No one's really listening now,
I mean,
you don't know what we do here,
there's a little reward.
You've got no idea how any of this works.
Not really, I just turn up and
Seb's like a monkey we just bring along and sit in front of something and talk very intelligently
look at the Google
football,
Doc and then go away afterwards.
But you don't understand.
Stop trying to have an influence on stuff.
Out, the tickets will already...
It's possible. Well, I was going to say maybe we could all agree to not tweet about it until the podcast is released tomorrow, so that the Twitter people don't storm on the podcast listeners.
So Twitter people are a bit more hostile than podcast people?
Yeah, I prefer the podcast people to the Twitter people. Yeah, what do you think?
I like all of them.
You like all of them?
I thank everyone for their...
I
don't like all of them.
No,
I like some of them, a small number. Most of them I hold in complete contempt.
Absolutely.
Everyone I've spoken to seems nice.
Well, hatred.
Yeah.
Dark.
But yeah, do visit the Old Red Lion Theatre website, where I'm sure there's a link in the description. I can't remember.
Do they have a website?
They do have a website. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I used to update it.
Did you?
I did. Yeah. I used to run the Old Red Lion Twitter account. Not the theatre one because I wasn't that important, but the pub one.
Were you being groomed to run the theatre one eventually?
If grooming myself, no, I'm not a theatre man. I'm not a
theatre man.
Theatrical man, sure.
I mean,
but I'm not a theatre man.
Friedel and me.
You heard about Friedel and me before?
No.
I'll tell you about Friedel and me later. It's good.
That's a little gift for long-term listeners.
Yeah, people might remember Friedel and me. Yeah. Anyway, it's the end now. Sol, thank you. Producer Sol and producer Adonis and or the freelancer that The Athletic have chained up to edit our podcast. I don't know which one it is, but if it's not Adonis, it'll be that person. Thanks to you also. We will be back next week. And until then, goodbye.